Hey everyone, welcome back to Missy's Enchanted Channel. Well, we are reading the True Tales of Ghostly Encounters, and we are on part 6. And we're doing the apparitions right now. So yeah, let's get on with it. All right, I'm going to be reading Meeting After Death. My son Richard, who had an intense interest in the psychic world, died of a massive stroke on April 3rd, 1985. He was buried 1 week later. Normally this ends the story of a dead person. But the story really starts 20 months later on the evening of December 3rd, 1986. Frank Brown, pseudonym, a friend and childhood playmate of my son's, called from Downey, California to say he was planning to visit a relative near El Paso, Texas, and wondered if he could visit me as well. He said he had gotten my phone number from Richard in the month of December 1985. I said that was impossible, that Richard had died almost 2 years earlier. Frank insisted he met Richard in Downey in December 1985, and they went to a small cafe. They talked for about an hour, during which Richard gave Frank accurate information about me, my phone number, and Richard's last address. Frank was certain about the date of the meeting. I checked the address that Richard had given Frank. It was the same as the last one I had for Richard before he died. The phone number he used there was also accurate. Frank didn't know Richard was dead until I told him so. Cassette, William B., Bear Acre, New Mexico, August 1987. All right, guys, now I'm going to ask you what you think. Do you actually think that he went to the cafe with him? Or he thought he went to the cafe with him? Which, in any case, he did see him. He did get the address. And he didn't know this lady before until then. So, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, because I would love to know what you guys think. All right, now we are moving on to He Kissed My Hand. My husband and Aaron Alec and his parents were Hungarian by birth. My in-laws were sentimental and emotional people, especially my father-in-law, Aaron Alec, an old-world gentleman to whom hand-kissing was second nature. After a long illness, he died in 1967, and my mother-in-law followed him within 3 months. Our son Emery was born late in my in-laws' life and was very special to them. Because our home in Bay City, Michigan, was so distant from a church of their faith, Emery never was baptized during their lifetimes. But early in 1972, we finally put our minds to it and made the arrangements for his baptism. On Sunday, February 13, 1972, we drove 300 miles in Cleveland, Ohio, to the Hungarian Reformed Church my husband had attended during his teens. The minister of the church, who consequently bore the same name as my husband, Aaron Alec, was delighted to perform the ceremony for us. We arrived at the church shortly before the service. My husband was ushered immediately into the pastor's office. I followed slightly behind. Several people greeted us cordially as welcome strangers, although most of them spoke only Hungarian, and I do not know the language. One gentleman in particular came right up to me. He was just under average height and wore the traditional mustache of elderly Hungarian men. He smiled warmly as he reached for my hand. I thought he wanted to shake hands, but he lifted my hand and kissed it with some emotion. Just then my husband called me to the office to complete filing out papers for the baptism. When we finished and left the office, I looked for the man who had greeted me so warmly in order to introduce my husband. But the man was nowhere in sight. He might be an usher, I decided. I would look for him during the service. But as the service progressed, I saw no sign of the man. I described him to friends who were members of the church, but they could not identify him from my description. After the service, my curiosity arose. I asked my husband and his friends to help me search for the elusive gentleman, but the elderly Hungarian was nowhere to be found. When I described the man again, my husband observed that my description fit only one person, his father. That brought me to a halt, for it was true. I had seen my father-in-law frequently during his long illness, but it had been several years since I had seen him up and about. Both the appearance and the mannerism of the unidentified man exactly matched those of my deceased father-in-law. I feel that Aaron Ellick came back to show me that he was pleased we finally had Emery baptized after such a long delay. Patricia Ellick, Bay City, Michigan, June 1973. So she got a visit from her father-in-law. Definitely let me know what you guys think. All right, now we move on to my friend Maria. I attended the University of Americas in Mexico City during the 1967-68 school year. I was a junior, majoring in philosophy. Logic and dialect were the tools with which I proved and examined all statements and beliefs. I believe man's power, indeed his very humanity, revolved around his ability to reason. Accordingly, I scorned anything that smacked of the irrational, including religious experience of the extraordinary nature, psychic phenomena, and out-of-body experiences. During the Christmas vacation of 1967, some friends and I rented a villa in the seaside town of Playa Azul. This Pacific Ocean town is approximately 200 miles north of Acapulco. Our living maid and cook was a woman named Maria Sanchez, a charming, although quiet and serious woman of about 55 years. Because of the severe sunburn, I spent most of the vacation relaxing in the villa, and I got to know Maria rather well. Although she had little formal schooling, she possessed a quick wit and keen sense of observation. Our long talks ranged freely from topic to topic. She was deeply religious and told me many stories of miracles and visions. I dismissed these tales as local folklore. She firmly maintained that she herself had seen visions. I laughed and told her she had an overactive imagination. After I returned to the U.S., I occasionally wrote Maria a short letter or postcard. She answered regularly with long, carefully written letters. In 1970, I was drafted into the Army and sent to Vietnam. My faith and reason was shattered by the hell I found there. This is what rational men do, I asked myself. In September 1970, I was wounded and sent to the regimental hospital. I was in a state of deep depression and knew that I would never survive my tour of duty. I was certain I would be killed or crippled, or that I would freak out. One night I had the most vivid dream of my life. I was sitting on a beach in my uniform with my rifle by my side. Maria sat by me silently and stroked my head. Her cool, soothing palm on my forehead filled me with a wonderful peace. I woke the next morning feeling calm and somehow confident that everything would turn out for the best. I immediately sat down and wrote Maria a letter. I returned to duty strangely purged of my depression. In late December, I received a letter from Maria's daughter, Graciela Miosis. She apologized for not writing sooner. Her mother, she told me, had died in September. She said that her mother had been very fond of me and often had spoken to me. I still think about Maria often. I am certain that our friendship transcended those barriers of time and space in a manner that cannot be explained logically or rationally. So he thought he knew everything about, the rational, the irrational, and all that, but he didn't really believe it. And now that he had, a sort of vision, in his sleep or whatever, and now he believes. Francis E. Kalsmek, Urbana, Illinois, June 1976. All right, now we move on to Diane. I am a 14-year-old who has several supernatural experiences. This one has to do with ESP, a psychic trait that has been passed from mother to daughter in our family for generations. One night, 4 years ago, I went to bed. I fell asleep and soon began to dream. In the dream, my mother and I were sitting around the kitchen table. The kitchen was dimly lit. Outside, it was dark. In front of me, hovering 2 feet above the floor, was a transparent figure of a girl in her late teens. She wore a short-sleeved white blouse and a calf-length red skirt. Her dark brown hair was loose and flowing. There was a smile on her pale face. She scared me. I sat and stared. My mother, seeing that I was frightened, touched my shoulder and said, "Don't worry, she won't hurt you. She's my friend." I woke up at 10:40 p.m., so I went back to sleep. The next morning, I told my mother about the dream. She was amazed when I described what the girl looked like. At the same time that I had my dream, she had been thinking about her friend Diane, and she couldn't sleep. Diane was my mother's best friend growing up and had died at age 19. I had described Diane exactly. See, we think that we dream of things, and we think that we don't know who this person is or whatever. And we have these vivid dreams, and then after we explain to somebody and they knew who we were talking about, we don't know who that we were talking about this person, but in actuality, we did. So you never know. You just never know what's going to go on. Your thoughts down in the comments, definitely. And that's Carly Pazakis, West Yarmouth, Massachusetts, December 1994. All right, I'm going to read one more and that's it. John returned. My brother John Stewart Locke, age 19, died on April 19, 1966 at Lincoln College in Lincoln, Illinois, when a train hit him at a crossing. I heard about it on the radio in the biology lab at Evanston Township High School in Mr. Martin's class, where I was 15-year-old freshman. My father came to pick me up and my sister up. We went down to Lincoln to get John's things. My grandparents lived in Pontiac and we met them there. John was buried in Taylorville, Illinois, the family's old hometown. It was hard for all of us. A short time later at home, I heard the doorbell ring and went to answer it. It was John. Strangely, when I saw him, I forgot he was dead. I thought he had come home from college. He came in the door. I was going to go to the kitchen to get my parents, who had not heard the doorbell. I learned later, but John said he couldn't stay long. He gave me a hug, said goodbye, and went out the door. I closed it, then opened it again to see him leave, but he wasn't there. I ran to the kitchen to tell my parents. Richard Locke, Jr., Evanston, Illinois, September 1985. Wow. It seems spooky, but at the same time it doesn't, because you get closure. And at the time you don't know that it's closure, but it is. All right, guys. Let me know what you guys think about these stories that I'm reading. And don't forget to, comment below what you think of them and stuff and your take on everything. And I'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. As always, thank you for watching. And I'll see you guys in a couple of days with, could be a reading. It could be some more of this. Part 7. You never know. All right, guys. Keep smiling, stay safe, and have fun. As always, I love doing this for you guys. See ya. Mwah.